announce that Supervisor Vitello will not be with us today.
No, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Let me start that over. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the San Benito County Board of Supervisors for August 5th, 2014, and announce that Supervisor Vitello will not be with us today. He's on excused absence. If you'll stand with me, we'll be led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Rivas.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We entertain a motion to acknowledge certificate of posting.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Espinoza for the presentations and recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, on this particular item, we have Randy Robertson here. I'd like to invite him to the podium. He is a senior human resource consultant for Tradell Insurance, and today we have the privilege of receiving awards and recognition. So, Randy?
All right. Good morning, and thank you for the invitation to be here. It is always a great pleasure to come and celebrate safety awards and safety achievement. Thank you for Dina to getting this coordinated, for the opportunity for Tradell to come here and recognize some really great work by some wonderful people here in San Benito County. This is, of course, a long-standing safety award, and we now have, of course, 11 counties in Tradell. So for me, it's always nice to come to San Benito County and enjoy somewhat similar weather to what I have in the North Coast, of beautiful marine layers that come in and cool the day off. But it is great, again, a great pleasure to be here. I'm not sure if we have our nominees here, so I would like to recognize the nominees that we also had before we do the presentation. The award really involves people actively participating and coming in with wonderful ideas, and the criteria to be nominated and then to win is significant. First off, there has to be a high level of safety awareness, commitment to safety here in San Benito County, a high level of participation in the safety and loss prevention programs that we have in the county. And then also there needs to be a very notable or significant safety idea, something that gets implemented in the county, and then that identification of what that risk or that hazard may be, that then again gets implemented, and it's a great opportunity to recognize people who are actively involved. And of course, without the support from the Board of Supervisors and the leadership in the county, this really doesn't happen. So again, it's a great honor for me to be here and to make this award. So first off, the people who were nominated was Vivian Austin. I don't know, Vivian, are you here? So I'm not sure if Dina had these folks come in. The other one was Michael Kelly. He was also a nominee. And Lynn Stevens was a nominee. And then finally, the last nominee that we had was Guadalupe Vasquez, was also nominated for the Safety Award. This year? Oh, okay. You want to come up? Sure. For Public Works, and that's for Guadalupe.
Thank you.
All right, and there's a little pin for you, and thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, and now for the big award. Dixie, would you come up, please? I promised a band or fireworks, but they're delayed somewhere. So sorry, Dixie. So This is, so let me read off this award. Dixie, of course, is with EMS, Environmental Health Department. And Dixie accepts and embraces her responsibilities as the department safety officer and endeavors to stay on top of safety in her department. She leads the monthly safety meetings to address safety issues, hazards, incidents, and related topics. She created a competition for staff to assemble personal disaster preparedness kits, ensuring that all staff members are ready for any worst-case scenarios. Dixie keeps an eye out for hazards in the workplace, but has also empowered each employee to recognize safety issues and to mitigate them immediately. Dixie is richly deserving of this recognition. So Dixie, there you go. Thank you very much. Here's a pen or pin. And also, of course, the winner receives, in this case, a wonderful, personally hand-selected purse from Jean and Trindell for your participation. So Dixie, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, thank you very much. Without your support, this doesn't happen, and it is critical to helping your loss prevention programs in San Benito County. So again, thank you very much, and a great pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
With that, we'll move on to public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
Marvin Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Lord, it's been 4 weeks I was suffering withdrawals from not being up here. Marty's not here today. Can I have his 3 minutes also?
Did he fill all the speaker cards?
Go to get a little heavy here. You know, when water cools, it gets a little heavier and shrinks. You've been swimming in a lake or a pond, nice warm on top, let your feet hang down, they get cold. Buoy project, the Argo Buoy project we've discussed in the past, where they've been measuring the temperature and salinity of the ocean for 10, 12 years now. 3,000 of these buoys floating all over the ocean. Every 10 days they come up from a mile deep, measuring the temperature and salinity gradient. And that turns out that you get below 300 meters, it's already at almost maximum density. You know, when water cools, it shrinks till you get below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it's very unusual in that you get 38 degrees, it starts expanding when it cools further. Starts rising up. And that's why ice forms on the top of a pond. Almost everything else in the universe sinks in its own liquid. Water floats in its own liquid. So just bear that in mind. Ocean, as I mentioned a moment ago, when you get deep, is already at maximum density. What's my next point? The ice caps. You've seen the data on the polar ice caps. The Arctic ice caps recovering real well. This Antarctic ice cap, largest area since they've been making measurements from back in the 30s from the satellite data. So the ice caps are not melting. Saw something in the San Jose Mercury a week or so ago about the oceans are rising. And well, that's global warming. Well, it's not from the ice caps melting. It is actually, quite possibly, from the oceans cooling. They're already at maximum density. They cool a little bit, they expand a little bit, and the oceans rise. Of the ARCO data that's available, 10, 12 years, as I mentioned, there have been five organizations throughout the world that have done their analysis on this, the heat content of the oceans. 4 of them says it's dropping. 4 of them said it's cooling. So next time you read about the oceans warming, keep in mind it may be due to global cooling. If the oceans are cooling, they're expanding a little bit, and the oceans rise. Anyway, that's today's lesson. Thank you.
Do you have any other speaker cards? Would anybody else like to address the board at this time on an item not on the agenda?
Richard Betancourt, 4140 Southside Road. I just want to bring to your attention that there is a dead tree by the old planning department that when I live out there, so when I go by there, it kind of concerns me. I thought maybe you should put up a yellow warning thing around it so that if those limbs break off, it won't hit anybody on the head. The other thing is there's a pull-out area just down from the Public Works that I see a lot of people parking there, and also they dump trash there. One day I seen several ladies throwing something over the side, but anyway, I just want to make you folks aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else like to address the board on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to department heads. Mr. Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have a few announcements this morning. We have a couple out of the CIO's office, Health and Human Service one, and also out of Public Works. The first two out of the CIO's office is one for myself. It's good to be back in San Benito County. Had a great time at the University of Virginia, Darden School of Business. There were some wonderful instructors there, professors. They had a wealth of knowledge, particularly in strategic leadership and in building high-performance organizations. So learned a lot, and I look forward to implementing some of those items that were taught in school. So I want to thank the board for allowing me the opportunity to go to such a prestigious school. So thank you very much. Number two, I'd like to turn your attention to the last page, page 5 of 6. We'd like to go ahead and remove 26, closed session item, and we'll continue that to another day, as well as remove item number 19 from consent. That particular item, the applicant actually pulled the application, so we won't be hearing that particular item. The next item, we have James Riding Sword. He's our Health and Human Services Director, and he has a department head announcement.
Good morning. So I wanted to announce today that we recently received a letter of retirement from Dr. Kent Benedict, who is currently our Emergency Medical Services Medical Director. We are in discussion with County Human Resources and County Council on putting out I guess I would call it a request for interest. We will see that request goes out both locally and statewide. And we hope to, be able to report back to this board in a couple of months with the results of that.
I have a question for our director. I apologize, but I have a note here under board announcements for later.
Okay.
In regards to the Veterans Residence Centers of America, Prop 41.
Yes,
And I didn't write any more notes, and I was hoping you could help me out.
I certainly can. About a month ago, we got a contact from the Veterans Resource Center. The Veterans Resource Center is actually a 3-state nonprofit organization that has been in business for about 40 years. Their focus is housing and supportive services for homeless veterans, veterans and homeless veterans as a focus in the community. Prop 41 was on the ballot in June. It was a veteran services bond measure. It was passed, as I understand it, well, it passed, and the purpose of it was to provide funding to create veteran resources centers and veterans resources housing and supportive services in communities in California. The Veterans Resource Center contacted us and said, we have an interest in doing something in San Benito County. And so we met with them, we've met about 4 times now with them. They've met with our Homeless Planning Committee yesterday. So they have an interest in pursuing this. In January, there will be proposals submitted to the state agencies that are looking at this, and they are interested in submitting a proposal on behalf of San Benito County. Their particular interest is twofold. One is to create a Veterans Resources Center here, a regional center here. They actually are opening up some offices in the Veterans Services Building in September. So one is to do that, and secondly is how can they coordinate with us on the efforts that we are working on in terms of planning for services and programs for the homeless population in San Benito County. They came to the Homeless Planning Committee yesterday. One of the questions that came up to them from one of the members of the committee was, does this effort that you're putting forward, is it going to create jobs in San Benito County? And their response was, we believe it will be a minimum of 20 new jobs in San Benito County. So we are continuing that discussion with them, and we'll continue to work on the details of that. If there is an application that goes forward, they will prepare the application on our behalf, and we will be updating the Homeless Planning Committee on a monthly basis on those discussions.
Jim, thank you so much. I knew it was worthy of mention, so I appreciate that you had all the details.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have another item I'd like to introduce to your board as well as to the public, our interim Public Works Director, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium. His name is Joseph Allen Hordell, and he has a wealth of experience, over 20 years of experience at the City of San Jose as a director, as well as other jobs. He also was the interim deputy city manager as well. So I'd like to introduce you to Joseph.
Good morning. I really am looking forward to the opportunity to working here in San Benito County as we're working through some of the organizational studies. As you heard from Ray, I was with the City of San Jose 31 years, was in management for most of that time through my career, and then ended my career with the city manager's office and really focusing on service delivery across the organization. And so it's one of the things that we've talked about besides the normal operations of Public Works, which I keep learning there's new pieces to. It's a pretty broad department, is really looking at how we go through and deliver our services both inside the county organization and out to the citizens through CSAs, through the development projects, and through the Parks and Rec services we do. I've been fortunate to already have, in the couple of weeks I've been here, of getting out and meeting a lot of the staff and some of our customers, and already meeting with the Council of Governments talking about traffic fees. So kind of really hit the ground running, but I am looking forward to probably about a 6-month term here with the county. You will find, as I'm not somebody who is going to kind of let things keep the desk warm and kind of deliver service. We're doing recruitments, filling important positions in the department. We just lost a key person on Friday, Adam, who does our capital improvement program. So we're already off trying to spin ourselves up on that and keep all those projects moving forward. So there's a lot of important work that's happening with a really small staff, and so I'm really looking forward to helping the board be successful with your goals, Ray with his goals, and the department itself. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate that. That's all of the announcements that we have.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Move on to board announcements. Supervisor Barrett.
Thank you so much. I have several. First of all, I want to thank Byron at Planning for helping me organize a pre-application meeting He got together some of the department heads, Joseph as well. It was very nice. I've attended 2 meetings with him already, and he's got a wealth of knowledge that I think is going to serve San Benito County well. But Byron, thank you for putting that together, and it was very worthwhile meeting. The City Council, a couple weeks ago, voted 5-0 to send a letter of no confidence to BLM, just as San Benito County did in regards to the Clear Creek management area. And they also had on their agenda a saltwater softener ordinance that I would like San Benito County not necessarily to follow the same ordinance that they have, but to consider through intergovernmental discussing what we can do in regards to eliminating more salt in our water by an ordinance that could prevent that contamination of salt. So if we could talk about it at that level, I would appreciate it. I also want to request from the board, I know that regionally, the California, let me see how I wrote it. California Department of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources is doing some outreach, and regionally, they are presenting to the residents community in Monterey County. And this is in regards to questions on Senate Bill 4, contamination of water with mining operations, the initiative that bans high-intensity operations. So I believe if we extend an invitation out to them, they would be happy to present and help educate the public, answer questions regarding water contamination in regards to this bill. And if they're going to be in Monterey September the 23rd, if we can extend an invitation to them to join us here for a town hall meeting so that folks can have an opportunity to get a lot of answers to their concerns. I hope that they would come, and so I would like the consensus of the board, if it's okay with the rest, that we extend that invitation. And I'll coordinate this with our CAO. So.
So just to clarify, this is to talk about water contamination for the potential, so it's related to the initiative in November?
Yes.
I don't want to spend any county resources on it. I think if there's a pro side in the community, they can spend their resources to get somebody here. But I don't think it warrants spending taxpayer dollars to put together a town hall for this purpose. So this is a political issue, and I think it should remain in that arena. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
If it's going to add education to the community, add value to inform the voters, I think it'll be worthwhile for us to move forward and invite the gentleman if he's already coming to Monterey. So I think it'll be a wise decision for us to move forward on it.
Yeah,
and I will support it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and it is a California bill that it's being through the state of California, and I mean certainly it was probably written by representatives from the Senate Assembly, well, from the Senate. And so, so it's primarily for educational purposes. So, and there should be no cost to the county other than maybe sometime. I would certainly try to coordinate it on a day that I can be here, because if it's going to be here at the Board of Supervisors chambers, I believe we have our own regulations that we want it to be to have it be a board member needs to be here. So.
Yeah, okay. Why don't you research it and bring it back on the 19th?
Okay, I can do that. So, thank you. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Rivas?
I do have one announcement, Mr. Chair, and that is, in the last couple of months, I've been having a dialogue with the Water Resources Association of San Benito County, in particular with Sean Novak of that association. And he's brought to my attention the association. They presented a report to me called The Potential Use of Gray Water for Hollister and San Benito County. And so what it is in recent years there's been changes in state law to establish statewide standards for installing both portable and reuse water, the plumbing systems. And so this presents options for local governments to potentially use gray water. And when you think of the fact that we are in a drought, this is just an option for local residents to offer some relief to offer some relief in the way of using water and using gray water. And it really, the options that the board, the policy options that the board could potentially have with this issue could present residents with the option of using gray water. And so I just, my request was just to agendize a discussion of the contents of this report, which I will make available to the board. I could work with staff. And I would like to see it agendized, if not our next meeting, the first meeting in September. I don't know what the first meeting in September is. Is it the 9th? Okay. So I think that would probably be safe. That way I could work with Sean and we could get some representatives here from the water agency, because I think that this is a realistic goal for our county, and I think that it could provide a lot of relief for our taxpayers and our local residents. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
We support that. I did. Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item on my report, the Vets Commission meeting met last night, and one of the issues that we discussed was the skate park update. And I was kind of a little confused, and I don't know if Sarah's here or not, but they were under the impression that actually today was going to be on the agenda to discuss on what direction, what relationship the city halls and San Benito County will have in terms of the skateboard park. And staff basically informed her that it might not even come at today's meeting. It might actually wait till the next meeting. But knowing the way how government works, knowing the way how city and the county both work, sometimes they like to take it slow to make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. Is the 19th still realistic in which everything will be final, will be done, said? Sarah, I need an update on the skateboard. Are we ready to move on the 19th?
Yes. Right now, Clay has it in hand for maintenance staff to review. The city legal has already reviewed it, which is great. So Clay was getting it through other individuals who'd be dealing with at least the operational part, making sure it's feasible, the maintenance terms in the new lease. So absolutely, it'll be ready on the 19th.
Okay, so it doesn't need to go back to the Vets Commission. It's at the board level, and it's just ready for the city halls to approve it and the board of supervisors to approve it.
So the only time, as per current language in the lease, which obviously has not been seen by everybody, it would only have to go back to the Vets Commission and possibly Public Works. Right now, we're looking at the Vets Commission with design plans. I received some concern from staff that it would be important to make sure that buildings, with contract code, labor codes, that everything is up to par. So we still, given that the county is the one who would be permanently, has that new change, that they would want to see those design plans and changes for structure before a shovel could hit the ground.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And then, could I have some questions for Mandy Rose? Mandy, can you come to the podium? Supervisor Botello and I, we've been kind of talking this for about 2-3 weeks. And the reason why is because it's right in the middle of both our districts. And that's the river, San Benito River. And what's going on now, it's funny you laugh, and I know why you laugh. And what's going out there is that we have members of our community beginning to have a tent city out there. And the more activity being created, the more visible it becomes, regardless of which way the road you're going. And him and I talk, and so I'm kind of talking on his behalf too. And I believe, and he also believes, that maybe what we need to have is have a container out there and have a toilet potty out there, and to sit with them and educate with them that we're here to help you. And that soon, to Jim, Supervisor Barrios, and the mayor, there will be permitted housing available. But for the meantime, what do? Anthony and I discuss, what can we do? Do we tell them that they can't stay there, and what's going to happen is just going to move somewhere else and create another tent in another part of the community? So Anthony and I said, let's just not do it. Let's ask the members of the board and staff if there's anything we can do, such as put a container out there, a toilet room for them to use for the meantime, for the temporary. It's not an invitation for everyone to come in that area, but more of a temporary solution to address some of the nuisance and some of the stuff that is beginning to grow out there, and members of the community are beginning to see while they drive through there. And I know there's the landfill operator in the contract does have the opportunity to provide services back to the community, so this will fall within that agreement. And in terms of the toilet, I don't know, maybe James, you could hop out here down the road, but education needs to be developed, a relationship with these members of the community who out there for the time being, the homeless members of our community. So, on behalf of both Supervisor Botello and myself, we need to provide and plan a situation in which it's going to be a win-win for everyone.
Sure. Chairman, would you like to add?
Well, I was.
Same issue, yeah.
Oh, you mean the tires?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's in the
okay.
same area.
I was also notified of a situation in which tires were being dumped by the San Juan Bridge. I think several hundreds tires were dumped. So we definitely have an issue. I think this might be something that we need to agendize also.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I
that
don't
would
think
be.
we can
Absolutely.
just go to, I mean, we can discuss it a little bit, but to actually make any decision,
Yeah, that
it
would-
needs to be agendized.
That'd be my recommendation.
Okay,
is
then
to
let's put it
agendize
on,
that.
can we put it on the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can do our due diligence before and be on time for the 19th, we will. If not, we'll have to defer to the 9th, just so the board knows.
All right, good. All right, sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, Mandy.
And that's all you have, Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair, appreciate it.
I just want to report out that on the July 26th, the historical park had several functions. Basically, we're celebrating the ribbon cutting ceremony of the dance hall, the reconstruction of the dance hall with an event during the day and a dinner at night that Supervisor Botello and I attended, and it was fairly well attended, being they were up against the Garlic Festival, but it was a great event. The dance hall is a wonderful facility that is available for rent for parties, weddings, or whatever kind of function you would want to use out there. So I would recommend that everybody head out to the historical park and look at the park itself and the new dance hall. It's a beautiful building. With that, we will move on to consent agenda. We've had requests for several to be pulled. We've had requests of 3, 6, 16, 20, and 21, and with the note of our CAO, 19 has been withdrawn by the applicant. Do we have any speaker cards on any other items to be?
Number 16, one.
Would any item from the public like any other item from the consent agenda pulled? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes 4-0. We'll move on to item number 3. Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I've had technical problems with my computer, so I don't have my notes in front of me. But working from memory, there is an item on one of the meetings that has a 5-1 vote, and I don't remember what page it was, but it said 5-1, which obviously is wrong. So I will just point that out once I get my computer back to our clerk of the board, and she can make that change. So with that being said, that's the only one that
Okay.
had issue. Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone from the public like to address this item? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve with the change. Oh, here it is. But I can go ahead and point out to when I do find it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to approve with the changes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes 4-0. Move on to item number 6. Supervisor Barrios?
Let's see. Oh, on that one, this is a 3-year grant, I believe, from 2014 to 2017. We're only approving 150,000 of that, if I'm correct. And I was just wondering why, on the contract, it does show it as a 4-year contract or a 3-year contract, and why we couldn't approve the whole thing today, why we're only approving just the 150. So maybe Jim could answer that, and this is number 6, the 150,000 from the California Tobacco Control Program. And my notes are gone from my computer, but I believe that was the only concern that I had. Wondered why we couldn't approve the entire 450 that is being given to San Benito County. Or will we have to approve 150 every year, for every contract year?
I think that's my understanding from discussing with staff. We get a 3-year grant, and then we have to kind of renew it every year as we go along.
Oh, okay, even though we have been approved already?
Yeah,
for
we're
the
approved for
450?
the whole, but the state sometimes wants us to walk through a process.
I know how the state
Yeah.
works, so, okay, well, as long as I know we're not missing the boat on the rest of the money
No,
that is coming to us, so we'll just have to bring it back every year for the other,
yes,
the next 2 years.
that's
then.
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I needed to clarify. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else from the public like to address this item? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair, per staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes 4-0. We will move on to item 16. The Highway 25. And I believe we have a speaker card on it?
Marvin Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with this item. If you don't put it on the list, it won't get done. But I noticed that our situation we have now, we get out to Route 156 and we've got a light turns green and we've got a 200-yard drag race to where it next down. The first of these two projects are going to 4-lane it out near Hudner Lane. So now when the light turns green, we'll have a 2-mile drag race to where the next down. Phase 2 is to extend it on out to the county line, so we'll have a nice long drag race to where the highway next down from 4-lane to 2-lane. It was mentioned in the past that you could actually maybe improve traffic flow a little bit if you put a flyover at 156 Route 25. It may help Route 156, maybe not Route 25 so much. I think they said something like $40 million, and that's like 15 miles of highway. So would it be better to improve safety a little bit and not pave over 15 miles of farmland? Or just a thought there. You could actually maybe improve something a little bit rather than just moving a choke point 10 miles down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. I also wanted this item pulled because I wanted to give Mary Gilbert an opportunity to once again talk about the funding of this. We're all in agreement that this needs to be on the constrained list, but we have to address the funding mechanism of how we're going to get to this resolution.
Absolutely, yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So certainly we recognize the importance of Highway 25 and making improvements out on the roadway. As we've mentioned before recently with the presentation to the board, financial constraint is something that underscores our planning efforts in our regional transportation plan. We do have to show that we have reasonably available resources to fund all the projects that we put on the constrained list. When we developed our financial plan and list of resources, we simply couldn't make the numbers add up. We don't have those funding sources available to us. San Benito County, as you know, small county, and we just don't get the funding that the Bay Area or other regions get. So, but we're committed to working on the project and, looking for different resources, but we may have to think outside of the box a little bit and review some of our planning efforts.
And I'd also like to speak on behalf of AMBAG, that AMBAG has no problem with putting this project on their MTP once Semio Cog puts it on the RTP.
That's right,
So,
yes. We'll be working closely in coordination with them.
Anyway, with that, I'll open it up to anybody else from the public. Anybody from the public like to address the board on this item? Seeing none, what's the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we adopt resolution
2014-72.
requesting that Council San Bernardino governments amend the June 2014 San Bernardino County Regional Transportation Plan, RTP, as soon as possible and to reflect that the Highway 25 Whiten project is constrained.
Second?
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0. With that, we'll move to item 20. Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason I pulled item 20 and item 21, they're very similar, is that we are being asked to approve beyond the change order that we have already approved. And while the amounts are not extreme, I just don't feel that it is the county's responsibility to pay for the unforeseen underground utility conflicts, primarily because this is, to me, a very basic thing and job that was done. We can usually get somebody like USA that comes out and points out where the utilities are, and I just don't see the rationale unless you can show me different.
Yeah, no, it was the same question I had of staff, kind of as I started unpacking the items. Excuse me. And we met with the engineer yesterday and kind of walked through, both Armand and I guess frustration or concern that we had and expecting the board to have around this. And a couple of things, though, I think is important for the board's consideration on this item. First, the engineering budget or the contracts for each of these was $5,000. We went local because we really were concerned about the total cost of engineering and the turnaround time for us to be able to get plans and specs back because it was Caltrans grants and we needed to move, and we had some problems kind of staffing wise, so we had to pivot a little bit faster or in a different direction. So we went to a local engineering firm to do that, and they gave us a very attractive price to do that. But one of the things that in our discussion yesterday realized is that they were operating as an extension of county staff rather than as an independent contractor. Normally, we would go and use the Caltrans short list of firms, usually out of the larger Bay Area, for a job like this, which would be a more expensive kind of job for them to be down. And they would go and take on more of those responsibilities, such as looking at underground. In this case, I think there was a little bit of a disconnect between us and the engineer about who was doing what, and one of those was around the underground service piece of that. USA will usually only come out when you're ready to start construction, as opposed to at a design phase. And we did not give information, because some of our utilities we weren't really aware of ourselves. So the fiber cable in one spot, and there was a really old water line in another that wasn't showing up in our records. So I think there was some of the things learned out of it, and that's why I wanted to sit down and talk yesterday with the engineer and with Armand for us to see how do we not do this again. And I think there's some things we'll go try. A little bit's hook and crook with underground service, that we say, well, we're going to go dig a hole in the ground looking for pipes, and they will then go mark it. Otherwise, they won't do it at the design stage, which is kind of unfortunate, but we're going to go look at that, see if that's a better way to do it. I will point out that the Salinas Grade Guardrail project, the next bidder was about $4,300 more than what the contractor who built it did bid on it. And while the change order is about $4,700, that's a little bit more. When we look at what the cost of what this contractor did it for, and that they got it done really quick, as well as the low price we did on the engineering, I think our total cost, had we gone out to kind of hire a big engineering firm to go do it and pay the cost for underground reviews, I think we still are dollars ahead on it, and we were well ahead of our engineers' estimates on both of these jobs. But it is one of, as I talked earlier, I'm a systems person, so I use this as an opportunity for us to talk kind of how do we work our way through this to not end up in change orders like this.
Okay. And I appreciate your explanation, because I I'm really concerned, and we have been throughout, you know, since I've been on the board, that anytime somebody gives us a contract and we have a change order amount, we really want them to stay within that. This is still coming under budget, is what I'm hearing.
It's under what we had as our engineer when we went out to bid.
Okay.
It's underneath that, a pretty good amount. It's in the monies that we had set aside, and as Chair and I had talked about in looking at some of the other bids that we had come in, we think, you know, we're still dollars ahead, even if, you know, there was fault wherever you want to put it. I think we're still dollars ahead on that, but it is one of those that I'm a firm believer in what you bid for is what you should deliver.
Exactly.
The underground piece is one of the things, though, in our contract, when we issue that, it does say that anything that's discovered underground at time of construction is a change order and back to the county. So that's one of the things I want to talk some more with staff about and the engineering community about is how do we reduce some of that uncertainty so we don't have surprises like
Yeah,
this.
and I appreciate that you're going to try to make changes to that so that we don't have to. I know, like I said, these are not huge amounts, but in the future they could be, and then
It's
it
practice.
could put us in a bind. So, okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from members of the public on this item? Seeing none, what's the wishes of the board?
I will go ahead and make a motion to approve because of the explanation that we received, Mr. Chair, per staff recommendation.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'm sorry? 20 and 21, if that's okay, because I pulled both of them, and they both have, I'm assuming, the same explanation? Okay. So I will go ahead and make a motion to approve both of those items.
Mr. Chair, I'll second it, but I got one question to ask. Is that okay?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know, this is for Ray, Matt, Amar. It's not for you, sir, but it's more for our staff.
Nope.
If we would have given this contract to someone else, would they come to us and ask us for a change order because of unforeseeable action or needs?
Yes, definitely. If we would have gone to the second low bidder, it would have been the same case.
But that's why we get contractors, so they can assume liability, they can assume risk, and they will actually do the work and figure out what's underneath the ground before any of these things, and then add it in your bid. It's okay, this is what we expect to.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, I've been in this business for over 30 years, and change order is something that it happens to almost maybe 90% of the job. It doesn't matter how perfect you are, but change order is always something that happens, because not any design basically fit perfectly to the existing condition of the site.
I understand, and to me...
On this one, actually what we had, there was a unfortunate, you know, that there was a water line right in the footprint of all the posts for the guardrail. And there wasn't much room between the guardrail and the pavement, between the edge of bank drop-off and the pavement. So everything has to be, it wasn't unforeseen for the contractor. It was, we are supposed to delineate if there are any underground facility in there of any importance. And this was...
But I'm figuring today's technology, I mean, just my cell phone alone will tell me what's 6 feet down deep. I mean, I could call PG&E, call Charter Cable, you know, those kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was something after the fact, you know, usually, as Joe explained, most of this was done on a fast track. Cost and speed was the issue because of we were on a time crunch due to environmental documents that we have to finish this project within dry season, you know, up to October 15. And I think by the time we advertised this project, it was not a little time left. So we had to really work on the design. I know I'm just jumping off on the answer to your question, but what it was, there was on a regular basis, like when we go to the short list with a consultant we have, usually they will call the USA themselves as part of the design scope. They call the USA themselves, and they go ahead and actually pothole those areas. They hire a contractor to pothole those areas to positively identify underground facility, like cable, fiber optic, water line, whatever that may be. They usually positively, because the USA, when the USA comes in, they only give you roughly where the things are. They would not, it's a liability for them as well. They said you have to dig it out and positively identify the depth and location toward the, respect to the edge of pavement. So we really have to go and do those work. But on this one, since this was on a fast track, the design was done very rapidly, and we bypassed some of those issues. And we didn't see any evidence of any underground facility on the appearance of the job site. So it was a little bit kind of a it was overlooked because there was nothing appearing on the ground. And later on, after the contractor came on board, when they start calling the USA, they figure out, oh, there's a valve here, there's a manhole over there. So they decided, oh, there's a water line down here that it wasn't anticipated for. So that was one of the issues that we had on this problem. Along with the, on some of the guardrail had to be, because the road has no shoulder on Salinas Grade, it was so tight. And the guardrail, the way it was, the terminal system that was designed, the standard was making it too close to the edge of pavement. So this was something that we have to decide on the job site. Hey, this end of the guardrail is right a foot away from the edge of pavement. The only way to alleviate that is just to basically lengthen the guardrail to another 10, 15 feet in order to avoid that. So there was, it was not something you can find in the design process. It was actually, you have to go and kind of understand the site.
Okay, thank you for the 20-minute version.
Sorry. Unfortunately, it happens on everybody. And not all the change order are increasing cost. Let me tell you that. Some change order are actually, we have deletion. So on Cienega Road realignment, I have deleted $30,000 worth of work that it was supposed to be there. I just deleted those issues. So not every change order means increase.
All right, thank you, Mark.
So we have a motion and we have a second for both 20 and 21. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 3-0 with one abstain, or absent. Okay, with that, we will move on to our public hearing. Item number 23. Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have item number 23 on our agenda. This will be given to us by Joe Hordell as well as Barbara Thompson, conducting a public hearing with regards to a fee schedule for our CSAs. So again, we have Barbara here. Barbara?
As the board recalls, every year we bring a fee schedule for the board for adoption, and it's placed on the tax rolls. These are for all the CSAs that actually have a Prop 218 fee. So the fee roll's been prepared, the budget's been calculated, it's been published twice, and then it's brought before the board for its approval, so it can be placed on the assessment roll. If the board has any questions, I'm available for questions.
Are there any questions?
I should note that CSA 55 has a special tax instead of a fee, so that CSA is being handled separately.
Okay. Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards for this item? Would anyone from the public like to address the board on this item during the public hearing? You may come forward.
I'm Dean Judd. I live in CSA 21, and I just became aware of it, had to read online. I guess you say it's been published twice. I guess I'm just not paying attention. But if I understand this correctly, in my CSA current fee for the current year was $216.64, and I guess it's going up to $307.40, which seems like a rather large jump. And in the material that I tried to read about this, I couldn't really quite see where the justification is. I don't quite understand where the current, what we've spent, what's going into reserves, and why we might have increased it. And perhaps I just need to be pointed to the right material somewhere, but it just didn't seem clear to me, and it seems like it's a big jump. So that was my concern. If I've read this correctly, if I haven't read it correctly, you can correct me on that too. Thank you. Judd, J-U-D-D. First name Dean.
It looks like the 14-15 on page 339, looks like the 14-15 budget's increased compared to the 13-14 budget, and it's a very small CSA with a parcel count of only 22. So it looks like admin charges have gone up from 410 to 506. The storm drainage, let me make sure. The storm drainage looks the same, but road maintenance has also gone up from 2,000 to 3,000. And I think that the capital reserve has increased also from 14,838 to 16,391. The total budget this year is 22,000 compared to 19,000 last year. So it's just increased, and because there's so few parcels, that increase has been allocated among the different parcels.
Barbara, Mr. Chair, if I could, do the administrative fees, are they pretty much the same across the board? This particular CSA is not getting charged, is my hope, any more percentage-wise than any other CSA?
It's my understanding that the admin fees are the same across the board based upon percentages.
Okay, so those are the same. So it's primarily, and for the capital improvements, are we talking, this would be monies that are put aside for the road, like maybe an overlay of some sort, or
Yes, the capital reserve.
repaving and those major?
Yes, the capital reserves do try to save up money over like a 5-year period of time or so, so that they do have money for future road repairs.
Okay, so then later on, hopefully, they will not have, that money will cover all of those expenses, and they will not need to have another Prop 218
Right.
vote to change it even higher. Okay.
That's correct. In addition, when some of the CSAs didn't have adequate operating funds, they also had to borrow from the county for money and get an advance on their fees. So they're trying to save up now the money over the 5-year period of time so that they have the money to pay for those fees when the schedule.
So rather than
time.
have a huge
Yes.
amount
Yes.
chunk. So I hope that that helps a little bit. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, real quick, Barbara, how many units are in this CSA right now?
It looks like 22.
22?
The two places that CSA 21 would be
Got it.
mentioned would be on page 339,
Okay, got
and
it.
there should also be a separate page.
Now, 2 years ago, was it still 22?
I'm sorry, 21.
Did it increase or decrease from 3 years ago? The number of units? That stayed the same, right?
Should be the same. There's only 1 or 2 CSAs, I think, that increased a parcel with a residential house where it used to be vacant. The history, also, CSA 21 is listed on page,
338, Barbara.
yes,
339, I'm sorry.
339, and also the fee schedule, which is just the maximum fee schedule, is also on page 357. And it's 22 developed parcels. And that just indicates the maximum fee. I should note that the maximum fee, we're imposing a rate that's greater than the maximum fee because the maximum fee was $464.99 for that parcel, for those parcels within that CSA.
Okay, the public hearing is still open. Anybody else would like to address the board on this item during the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Barbara, I thought we could only raise these fees by a percentage, like a
That's
COLA.
correct. You're only allowed to raise it by CPI, and you're only allowed to raise it for the first 5 years of the life of the fee. We've already reached the 5-year mark for CSA 31, so there's no more increases on their their operating budget unless they go back for another Prop 218. And a couple of the other CSAs are now, this is last year, that they're going to be able to have a CPI increase unless they go back for additional Prop 218. So a couple of the CSAs are now reaching their 5th year of increases in the maximum fee. Quite a few of the CSAs we've imposed at less than the maximum fee, so we can still increase it up to the maximum authorized fee. And some of the CSAs, we are at the maximum authorized fee.
Okay, so we're with this particular CSA 21, we're within all those constraints?
That one, we could still increase the fee because up to the $464.99. It's actually only had 1, 2, 3, 4, well, it's in the 5th year of the fee now.
Okay,
So this will probably be, it can still go up to the $464.99, but it won't increase over the $464.99.
okay. But we are within all the
Yes.
constraints?
Yes.
Okay.
We're imposing it at less than the maximum.
Okay, good.
Okay, okay. Any other questions of the board? What's the wishes of the board?
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve per staff recommendation, and I'm not sure if there's a resolution 2014-2014-73.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to our regular agenda. Move on to item number 24, Mr. Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this particular item is a continuance from our last board meeting with regards to our TOT, and there was an item that was of question and concern from our last meeting with regards to internet sales tax or the tax on that. So we have Sarah Fontanos as well as Barbara Thompson here to discuss this particular item with your board.
Good morning, everyone. So as per direction from the board on June 16th and July 8th, staff has returned with the resolution and proposed amended ordinance. As you recall, the transient occupancy tax for the unincorporated areas of San Bernardino County hasn't changed since 1986, when it was set at 8%. So the proposed ordinance in front of you sets it at a rate of 12 and also changes the definition of the operator. Today we'll be asking you for 3 items to make the determination on whether or not to publish the full text of the ordinance, adopt the resolution in front of you with the TOT at 12% with the changed definition of the operator, and also discuss and determine whether to appoint 1 or more members of the board for the arguments and for or against. So Barbara is actually here to talk about those definitions and other things.
Okay. The definition change to operator has actually indicated that let me go to the actual definition. It's changed so that it expands the definition of operator to any person receiving consideration from the rental of a hotel room for sleeping accommodations, including without limitation any broker, service provider, or other intermediary. And that's on page 402. We've taken our existing definition and then added that portion of the definition would expand it from being collected just on the hotel operator, as previously defined was the proprietor, such as the owner or lessee of the hotel, and now it's expanded it to anybody that's receiving money for the rental of a hotel. And the purpose of that expansion is so it could be collected from online intermediaries that receive money from a hotel. They keep part of that money, and then they only remit part of it back to the operator of the hotel. So under the previous ordinance, we would only be collecting the tax on the amount that was paid to the operator and not on the full amount of the hotel rental payment. So that expands the definition of operator, and we've also increased the TOT tax to 12%. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? It was modeled after the city of Baltimore's TOT tax, and they had that language which we copied, and it was upheld in a court case which had allowed it to be collected from online hotel
Are there any questions?
rental agencies.
Seeing none, open it to the public. Are there any questions from the public on this item?
One of the first things that the board will have to determine before it adopts the resolution is whether to publish the full text of the ordinance. So it's up to the board whether it would like to do so. There is a cost for that, which is estimated in the AIT between $6,000 to $9,000, knowing that it could be higher or lower. We did publish the full text of the petroleum initiative, and we did not publish the full text of the abandoned vehicle abatement fee. So it's up to the board for its determination. If you don't publish the full text, it will be available by mail for anybody that requests it, and it can also be placed online by the elections department. The place to indicate whether or not you'd like to publish the full text is on page 6. I meant page 398, paragraph 6. I'm going to mark yes or no as to whether or not the full text should be published.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. If we publish the full amount, the full text, you said it would be between $6,000 to $9,000 of additional cost. Do we have we budgeted this amount, or is this coming out of the general fund?
Yeah, this would, we actually have not budgeted for this, so it'd probably be coming out of the general fund. So we'd have to look at that.
Okay. But I know how important it is for the public to get full. It's easier to have it in front of them rather than to go and look for it. We certainly want to pass this and make sure that this is something that is voted for in our favor of increasing it. So I would recommend that we have full text. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Board?
I'll support Margie on that one.
Mr. Chair.
See ya.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I would also recommend that we actually publish this information as well, just with regards to the vehicle abatement program, and I think it's important that the residents understand this and have clear insight of what we're doing.
Barbara, do you have anything else?
No, I think that it's advantageous to publish the full text, as long as the board, there's only the trade-off in the money, so that would be fine, so the public has that available. So that consensus to publish?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question about the publication. I know we did it for the high-intensity, the initiative in November, but I have a question for Angela. Obviously, being a resident of San Benito County and not living in another county, is it?
Good morning.
Hi, how are you? Is it common in other communities, other counties, to publish the full text?
In my experience, it is. One of the things that's most often said from jurisdictions that do print the full text is that it's for full disclosure to the voters. If voters think they have to ask for it, they feel that something's being hidden.
Okay.
So basically, it's just because it's transparency.
Okay, that's fine with me.
And then do we want to discuss number 3, whether someone wants to submit an argument in favor of the proposed ballot?
What is the cost for that, Barbara?
There's no cost to submit an argument. The Board of Supervisors, when you evaluate who has priority to submit an argument in favor of a proposed measure, if the board submits an argument, it has priority in the order of, if more than one person submits an argument in favor. If the board does not submit an argument in favor, I'm not aware of any other party that's lined up to submit an argument in favor of this proposed measure. So if the board doesn't want to submit an argument, it's possible that no one would submit an argument in favor of it.
I think that we should submit an argument in favor, and I would like Barbara to get us a sample of what, do we have time to review it before it actually goes out, or do we need to appoint somebody to be in charge of,
Appoint somebody. The deadline, I believe, is August 12th.
so we won't have another meeting, so I really think that we need to put an argument in favor.
Yes, there's many TOT arguments out there that we can provide samples to the committee that, and the committee can just select a sample that they believe would fit for San Benito County.
Okay. I'd like to recommend that we do that, Mr. Chair.
Are you volunteering?
I will volunteer.
Okay. All right,
Absolutely.
all right. So, do we have a motion to wrap this all up?
Okay, so was paragraph 6 then, the consensus was to publish the full text? So I'm going to mark the yes box in paragraph 6. And I also note that the resolution number, we didn't fill it in because we weren't sure whether it was going to change, but the resolution number on paragraph 7, it would be 2014-74, so that the measure that's proposed to the voter would read, shall the ordinance approved for submittal to the voters by San Benito County Resolution 2014-74, et cetera. Pardon?
Do you want to have the full text of the resolution with the full text, not
Yeah.
just the text? Okay, as long as that's.
Well, we haven't made a motion yet.
And
Yeah.
I will go ahead and make a motion, Mr. Chair, if we're ready.
And I should,
I was going to make the motion, Margie, but go ahead.
No.
I'm sorry, I should remind the board that it was a 4/5 vote for this one.
Pardon?
4/5 vote also.
Forfeits. Okay, let's see. And that is just on the resolution?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I will go ahead and make a motion then that we adopt Resolution 2014-74 per staff recommendation.
And,
I believe that's all we need.
well, don't you need the creation of the committee to issue an argument for it, too?
I thought that that was by consensus only,
Okay.
but if not, then I will add that to my motion, that we will go ahead and appoint one member or two. Mr. Chair, do you have another member that you'd like to add to my committee?
I think Margie can handle it
I
well.
have great faith in you, Margie.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and that I will appoint, that our chair has appointed me as the Board of Supervisors representative to submit an argument in favor of the proposed ballot measure
On behalf of the Board of Supervisors.
on behalf of the Board of Supervisors.
Second the motion.
Okay, so Barbara, that's everything you need in the motion to cover all three of these?
Yes, we made the changes to paragraph 6 and 7 already. And, yes, I indicated on paragraph 6 that the full text will be published, so we made that change by amendment to what was published in the agenda. We've checked the yes box in paragraph 6. And we've also added the 2014-74 in paragraph 7, so those changes have been made. So yes, I believe that's correct.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to item number 25. Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is our last item on our regular agenda. We have Mandy Rose, Integrated Waste Director, here to propose or explain to the board kind of where we're at with the post-closure of John Smith landfill, and with regards to the release of financial assurance mechanism. So we have Mandy here to discuss that with your board.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Yes, this is just an information item for you. I know at budget time, we were talking about, we were waiting for the state to send us the official notice that they had accepted an alternative financial assurance mechanism. When that was received by my office in early July, I forwarded it to all of you so you could see that it was there, but I thought it was important to put this on the agenda so the members of the public knew as well when all this was happening and what we were doing and proceeding with board direction. So again, July 9th, Cal Recycle released the cash financial assurance mechanism that the county holds and replaced it with the bonds that have been provided by Waste Connections in accordance with their contract. And by doing so, that allows the county to remove those funds from the restricted area to reserves as directed at your budget time. I will tell you, I've had a conversation with Assistant Auditor Larry Chapin, and he is working on the exact nature of how that all moves around. But I thought I was going to have that available to show you, but he said he needed to do some research on how he felt it needed to be done. But rest assured that the money has been released, it's now available, and will be put in, eventually making its way to the general fund reserves as directed by your board at budget time. I also wanted to point out to the board another condition of Waste Connections contract was to reimburse the county for all costs associated with expanding the landfill, the engineering costs, et cetera, as well as the permitting costs. That total was $275,133.20, and I showed you a copy of the check. They have already reimbursed us for that money. So again, this is just an information item for you to let you know that they have fulfilled those parts of their contract on our behalf. If you have any questions, I will be glad to take them.
Any questions? So Mandy, the 275,000, that just went back into the enterprise zone?
It
fund?
goes into the enterprise fund, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any questions from anybody from member of the public on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm confident Mandy will do a good job. It was a few years ago when she came before the board and announced that we had 15 years of space left in the landfill. According to law, Mandy did what was required. She notified you. The landfill was expanded. I'm not sure what the current due date is for when we fill it up. My question is, what is the current fill date of our landfill, the expanded one, and what would be the fill date if we did not import several hundred tons per day of garbage from outside of San Benito County into our landfill here in the county, bringing in the trash from Monterey, Santa Clara, wherever it comes from? Just what's the current date, and what would be the date if we did not bury San Benito County in non-San Benito County garbage? Thank you.
If Mr. Jones will allow us a bit of time, that will be in a future agenda item, hopefully the next time, because we have recently completed the annual capacity report, so that will be coming back to the board. So we could get the other information as well, if that is satisfactory.
Anyone else from the public like to comment on this item? Seeing none, I believe this is just a report, so no action needs to be taken. With that, we will adjourn to closed session. Mr. Granger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors will now adjourn into closed session to discuss agenda item number 27 on today's agenda. Agenda item number 26 has been pulled. The Board of Supervisors will meet in closed session to discuss the appointment of a county employee. The title is the Director of Human Resources. The authority to meet in closed session can be found in California Government Code, Section 54957.
Okay.
Gee, maybe Anthony should be more absent.
We'll call him.